Fellow at Policy Network, an international think tank. She specializes in environmental issues and joins us now from London. Thanks so much for being with us. Is aid the solution to this problem? We've been hearing, of course, aid agencies screaming for months for more money. Is that the solution, though?
Well, I think when you have a widespread or potential tragedy like this one, then of course it's vital that aid agencies get involved to some extent. But I think to another extent, we need to look at the underlying causes of the problem, as it seems to repeat itself every few years. What can those governments do to solve the underlying problems that have contributed to the drought, the famine, and to potentially millions of people suffering or dying?
Well, let's talk a little bit about what governments are doing. Is there enough investment in things like infrastructure for irrigation?
Well, I think we need to look at this in terms of trade barriers, and we can look at in terms of external trade barriers and internal trade barriers. And I would say that irrigation is something that is an internal trade barrier right now in this region, that there is very little investment in anything that can help improve the efficiency of agriculture, and then so irrigation would count as part of that, but even things like roads, getting food from one place where food is grown to another place where it's needed.
Well, why is that?
And
why
that
is that,
also
Kendra?
Sorely lacking. Well, I think it's down to governments, really, and that's why I find that blaming climate change, yes, climate change may be contributing to this, but it just points even more to the fact that governments are sitting by doing nothing. They're inept and corrupt, and in some cases even stealing the food aid right now. So they've hardly done their bit to contribute to creating more flexible situations where people are no longer subsistence farmers. Subsistence farming is fine if you have all the right conditions for it: water, the right soil conditions, and seeds, and all the types of things that a subsistence farmer would need. But in a drought situation, the subsistence farmer is completely tied to the land, and has no option other than to sit there watching his crops fail, watching his cattle die.
Well, in addition to not doing their bit, let's talk about some of the external trade barriers, as you put them. Our government sometimes doing the opposite there, like with the maize export bans. Well,
right. I mean, I would again say that that's a problem created by the governments, that there are external trade barriers, and even within African countries, between African countries, trade barriers. And that just, it strikes me as absurd. If you have food growing in one country in Africa, why can't it be traded with another country? Governments have the customs, customs as a racket for governments, in that they can charge far higher tariffs than even on other industrial goods that are exported between those countries. So that is certainly a problem that it is, again, down to the governments that need to solve that and be much more open to the idea and prospect of trade between those countries.
Let's hope they're listening to you now, Kendra. Thanks so much for your thoughts on that.